Morning, everybody. Welcome to our Summer Youth Employment Program Technical Assistance session. If you have any questions, please let us know. We do have one person that has entered that they need something answered about pre- and post-assessment. Oh, now they took it away. So if you have questions about any of the first items, please type them into the chat pod so that we can answer that for you. While we're waiting for people to type, Fred, if you'd like to give everybody an update, if there's anything that they need to know. Oh, we have a whole big thing here. So let me read this in here. I have a question on the email we received earlier this week about the exit interview. My question was if this exit interview is something that you have on this website or if it is something us as an agency has to create. There is no precursor for the exit interview. However, we expect the youth to complete their post-assessment and for providers to talk to the youth about the program to get their feedback and to learn what they are doing next. Myra can contact me with more details. I was also wondering one more thing. I was wondering how many hours of career readiness should each youth be completing before they finish their time with us. One must review their program and spending plan to see what their estimated total number of hours spent on work readiness should be. The requirement is that 10% of the youth's overall time should be spent on work readiness. That's from DHS. So that is what Fred has to say right now. And Tammy, is there anything that you would like to add to the conversation here?
No, we're just looking at, like I said, our agencies and seeing who has funds that they're not going to be able to expend, and we're doing some realignment with funds right now. I think we're getting real close to wrapping up with a lot of organizations. Like I said, just make sure that you're doing the post-test and then the outcomes, you know, for the youth once they're exited.
Great. All right. Someone says that they have a question or need a demonstration on outcome/success stories. So if you'd like to type that into the chat pod and also put what your organization is, DHS or DCEO, just so that we, if there's a specific question, we can get that answered for you directly. And while we're waiting, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so I'm on the youth page right now, SYEP 2014. This is the website that we hope everybody was using this year to create their youth profiles, and youth can return to their application here on the screen where the yellow box is. Montina writes, throughout the program we have had a number of computer issues. For example, although our students completed training, when I pull up some of their names, the program indicates students have not completed the post-assessment, even though I watched them take the assessment and recorded their scores. Some students' post-assessment scores have disappeared several times. The students did not save their skills and interest assessments, and yet they have saved them. That completion certificates have not been printed. Will these inaccuracies affect our program in outcome and completion rate?
I'll go ahead and talk about this, if you don't mind.
All right. But yeah, sure. But Montina, are you with DHS or DCEO? Please type that into the chat pod.
One of the things that we've noticed is that unfortunately some youth have completed, they have multiple accounts, which means they literally went in and completed multiple applications, And so what we've run into is that some areas, they have, let's say the person has their first account that was the person where they were made eligible, enrolled, and had a payroll upload, but then they couldn't remember their account. So they created another one and went in and completed the pre and post assessment um, and all that kind of good stuff, which is a problem because that means that they now have two accounts and the information is in two separate places and we have to merge them together. Or in some instances, for some unknown reason, people have gone to old WorkNet and completed the activity section in old WorkNet, which, we want to make sure everybody's using the SYEP 2014. And we tried to not ever direct anybody to old WorkNet right now for SYEP. And it's really, when I say old WorkNet, it's really the current Illinois WorkNet site, and we're in the process of upgrading our site. So I apologize for referring it to that way if that confuses you. My point is we want to make sure we're using SYEP 2014. We want to make sure that they're using their correct SYEP account and not have 2, 3, 4, 5 different accounts out there. If they do have, if you could send us a listing to SYEP 2014 at illinoisworknet.com so that, we can work with you. We need to combine those accounts if those individuals have multiple accounts. And so I know Lacey's been working with several organizations to correct those situations. But the point is, send that information to SYEP 2014 at illinoisworknet.com, and we can start merging those accounts. That's been the situation.
Thank you, Natasha. All right, and I just typed in that email address that Natasha referenced. So Montina, if you can send those names to that email address, that will take care of it. Now, Caitlin is asking about submitting success stories. She is on the page that I have up on the screen right now. So when you are looking at this page, you see to share your experience. We have our presentation at the top with success stories that have been submitted. Under youth participants, there is a link for the youth to complete their survey. We would appreciate all youth doing this just for our benefit to make the program better if we need to in the future. And then the youth can then, under number 2, log into their Illinois WorkNet SYEP account to submit their own success story under the success story tab in their profile. So Caitlin, does that explain the youth portion for you a little bit better? If you can just type yes or no in the chat pod, and then I'll move on from there. Okay. All right. So then for the employers, again, the employers can complete their survey. It's a 6-question survey on one page. The success story can be entered here. It goes to WeaWorks, and or you as a partner can submit a success story for your customer. So if I click on this link, it takes me to WeaWorks, and I have to be logged in, so I would need to log into my Illinois WorkNet account, and I have not done this yet, so that means that I am logging in. And then I can click the box here, or I can read the directions and then click the box. And then when I submit the story, I select a story to submit. I can submit on behalf of a registered customer success, which is not what we're trying to do. We are trying to submit a story about a special project success, which is the Summer Youth Employment Program. So when I click that, it would be next, and we would do, you can do SYEP 2014, and then your organization name, or your business name and your organization name, whatever you want to name it, and then you can um, put your name and all that information in. So I'll just go ahead and Natasha, you're going to have to clean this one out. We'll do next. Oh, sorry, need my full zip code. That is my zip code. Oh, dash, not plus. All right, next. And then all you have to do is type of WIA service received. I employed youth for the summer. And then you would type in, this is a, whatever your story is. And I would suggest following the directions on the original page to make sure that you are doing a great story. And then once it's done, you can click next. And then you can upload a picture. And um, and then you choose the file here. So if I go to Images, select a file, and I'm just going to, oh, all of my images are screenshots. Here, we'll put this one in. And then we can cut the picture if we need to. Then we click Next. And it's taking them just a little bit longer because of the image that we uploaded. And then we preview what it is that we want to do, or what we want to submit. If we need to edit it at all, you click the previous button. If you're ready to submit, you can click Next. And you've read the agreement and submit the story. And then you can submit a new story for another employer if you want to do that. We do review all of the stories before they get published, especially the youth stories. We try to keep them as close to written by the youth as possible, but there are some glaring grammatical things that we do need to fix. We do make sure that language is appropriate for the general population, and we make sure that it will be an enticing story. So, does that explain what you needed to know? Caitlin says, should we put in the name of our organization or of the work site the youth was at? If you can include both of them in the body of the story, that would be wonderful. You want to make the title something that is a little bit more appealing that a reader would want to read. And Caitlin's typing again. You probably could if you wanted to, and that gives the employer a little bit more advertising. You might want to even include their website if that's just a little bit of marketing for them to help them for helping you. All right. Is that good, Caitlin? Does that answer you? Great. Okay. Are there any other questions about outcomes and success stories that we need to cover here? I will show you one last time. Oops, I am in there. All right, one of the things that we want to do, I need to go to my other page here, on the dashboard for the youth. This is your tools, your dashboard. We want to make sure that once the youth has had a pre-test, pre-assessment and a post-assessment and one payroll, then they can be added in the completion status here, which gives them the opportunity to determine what they will have done. So if a youth has not completed and a payroll has not been uploaded for them, you will not be able to change their status. And the computer is thinking here. That's why you see a white screen. While we're waiting for my screen to come back, let's give you a moment to check in if you did arrive late. And now we're up. I've got I have 8 youth here who have not completed, which means that you need to do something with them. This Peter Parker was never placed for employment, which means that there's not going to be a payroll for him. Quasi Quinn was placed. So if we go to Quasi's Quinn's profile, and it's still thinking, if we go to Quinn's profile, as long as Quinn has a payroll, then we would be able to update her completion status. And right now it's showing me that the payroll has not been submitted, so my only 2 options is withdrawn, exited, or has not completed. Otherwise, if we have a payroll entered, we would be able to see all of the options on our dashboard, which include enlisted in military, enrolled in training, hired by employer, or returned to school. So that's what we need for everybody to do to help finish the program. So as a reminder, we would like everybody to have a pre and post assessment and at least one payroll entered so that the program is considered complete and successful. All right, we do have somebody typing right now. We'll wait just a moment for that to go ahead, Rayona. Ask your question. I probably butchered your name. I hope I didn't. And while we're waiting Natasha, Fred, or Tammy, do you have anything else that you'd like to add since we've been discussing here?
This is Natasha. I don't have anything to add right this minute.
Okay.
And this is Tammy. No, we're just going to be looking at closing out grants. So we'll be looking at, completing final reports and identifying costs and all of that so we can enter them in our GRS system.
All right, great. All right, so Riona finished your question. With the completion, this is only done when the person has completed the program, no longer working at a work site, correct? And that would be correct. If they have completed and just haven't received their last paycheck yet, you can go ahead and finish the completion status. You don't have to wait for them to get the paycheck. And Caitlin is typing. So we'll wait for just a moment here. We will have three more technical assistance sessions on the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th, all at 10:30 a.m. So if you do have any closeout questions, please make sure that you attend the technical assistance sessions. Caitlin writes, I have some youth who did 180, 190 hours, etc. Can I reflect them as completed even though they have not finished exactly 200? Caitlin, I can't remember. Are you your DCEO? Tammy? Caitlin is DCEO. So Tammy, would you like to answer that question for her?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, that's fine. I guess what you're saying is you anticipated them completing 200 hours, but they only did 180 or 190. Yeah, as long as they have one payroll and they've done their pre-assessment and the post-assessment.
And Ashley is asking, is 200 the cap or is it 250? And Ashley, I think that depends on what your contract with your mother organization was, whether it's DCEO or DHS. It depends on what your per student amount was. So if you had some kids that didn't do as many hours, I would, and Tammy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if some students didn't work all of their hours and somebody else wants to work more, that would probably be okay, right?
Yeah, and that happens where you'd have a youth that would enter the program and then for some reason they would drop off. They may have done their pre and post test and then they've had 2 or 3 weeks of work, but then, they went on vacation and didn't come back or they got another job or went somewhere else. So then you could backfill those slots too, with new youth. So you may not, youth may not get the entire amount of hours that you anticipated for them for one reason or another, but as long as they did the pre-test, the post-test, and had a payroll upload, then they can be, um, you know, finished as completed, as a success.
Great. And what if the student started late? Does the program end on September 30th? Is that a dead end date, or can we extend it to October? And Ashley, I don't know what program you're with, so let's have an answer for both from Fred and Tammy so that either organization understands.
This is Tammy, and we'll work on it with a one-on-one basis. It just depends upon how far over you're going. So what I recommend is you send me an email with your request, and then we can work with you on that. But we have had instances where people are saying, okay, we need to go an extra 3 or 4 days past September. So just send me an email with that request.
Right. And then Fred is typing, so he'll give you the answer here in a moment. Let's see. The screen keeps moving on me. I apologize. Riona asks or types, however, since the completion is based on the participants completing their assessment, however, as mentioned earlier, some of our participants that have completed their assessments sometimes shows that it is not complete. How should we handle this with the completion process? Riona, we are going to, if you have some youth that are not showing up, please send an email to that email that we typed in there earlier, and we will make sure that we get those profiles combined. Then we'll figure out what your completion process needs to be after we get those profiles combined. Beatrice types, can you give hours not completed by one youth to another youth already in the program? Beatrice, are you with DHS or DCO, and or does it matter? I think Fred typed ditto, meaning ditto for the hours that Tammy was just talking about. Okay.
Yeah, and this is Tammy, and and like I said, I'm answering for a DCEO, but yeah, you can, if a youth exits early and you had a certain number of hours that you were aligning with them, and they exit early and don't use all those hours, you can, use those hours for other youth. So that's, from DCO's perspective, that is not a problem. You can realign your hours to other youth that are still in the program.
All right, we've got a couple people typing still. The whole goal is to not exceed your original budget unless you talk to someone from your particular organization, whether it's DHS or DCEO.
You also have to keep in mind that at least 70% of the expenditures need to be on youth wages, and no more than 10% on administration.
Okay, with that, can those reallocated hours given to other youth go over 200? I would assume so, yes. Yes, they could go from 25 to 40, but never any overtime. Zero overtime. Zero overtime. And the other youth that are still in the program can absorb those hours instead of getting new youth in, unless you want to try to get some new youth in. Maybe they're older youth and not going to school right now. And that would be an opportunity as well.
I would recommend, if you haven't met your planned number served, that you would your first focus should be number of youth that you planned on serving in the program. So if you haven't met your numbers and your scope of work, you would want to bring new youth into the program.
Because the whole opportunity here is to get as many youth as possible marketable job skills and or skills that they can take to a new job with them. Ashley's saying, does this create a problem with insurance benefits? What do you mean by insurance benefits? Unemployment insurance? They don't get that. They're not getting health insurance.
Yeah, the program is only paying for FICA and workman's comp. So the FICA would be allocated based upon the number of hours that they work.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions about the program? Hired by the employer means that the employer that they were working with hired them on full-time or part-time permanent. Or another employer may have hired them on part-time or full-time permanent. It's not temporary based on this summer youth program. All right. I'm going to pull down my screen and give you the opportunity to check in one last time in case you missed doing that earlier. We will see everybody back next Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. If you've got questions in the interim, you can send them to SYEP 2014 at illinoisworknet.com. Also, if you want to send pictures because you missed it on the upload portion, you can send your pictures there as well. Please put the name of the person, the program, and the associated story. Thanks, everybody. Have a great